And we are back. This is WHCR Sports 90.3 FM here in New York City in our beautiful Harlem studios. And there's a big fight coming up. I've been telling you all that all morning. We've been talking about this the last few weeks. And here to talk about it is my man, the boxing aficionado, Joshua Garcia. Joshua is with the New York Beacon, among other media outlets. Josh will be in the building in Las Vegas next Saturday night, just 6 days away. And Josh, thank you for joining us. And how excited are you about the next few days?
Samori, uptown, downtown, all around town. Fight week, we're ready. We're headed to Vegas. People are coming in from all over the world, all over the country. We're ready to get it cracking in Vegas. T-Mobile Arena has been kind of a hot spot in the last couple of years in the sports world, and there's probably no better place for this fight to happen than T-Mobile Arena.
Yeah, and we gotta tell the folks out there because they may get confused, and with all these corporate names now with these stadiums and ballparks, because the ballpark for the Seattle Mariners is T-Mobile Stadium, but yes, folks, the fight will be in Vegas at T-Mobile Arena in Vegas. And yes, so Josh, why is this fight now between Bud Crawford and Errol Spence? Why is this the biggest fight that we have seen in quite a few years?
So a lot of the big fights that we've gotten in the last decade or two have been guys who waited until the end of their career to fight, the boogeyman. In boxing, we call somebody who's out there that maybe you haven't fought, or somebody out there that maybe the stars haven't aligned where you guys have fought each other. We call that the boogeyman. So basically, these two guys have been each other's boogeyman. And instead of waiting towards the end of their career like Oscar De La Hoya did, or Floyd Mayweather did, or Manny Pacquiao did, these guys said, finally, let's sit down at a table. We don't like each other. We don't like each other's business partners. We don't like a lot of things about each other. There's respect there, but there's no, admiration. So they basically sat down at a table, banged out the negotiations, and boom, instead of being late in their career and getting a lesser version of the fight, you're getting in their prime, the best version of Bud Crawford, the best version of Errol Spence. That's what you're going to see at T-Mobile Arena. And the two styles, as they say, styles make fights. These two styles are the most fan-friendly styles. So not only is it a huge fight, but it's going to be one of the best electric, fan-favorite, energizing fights. And if you want to go further from just Bud Crawford and Errol Spence, the lineup, the undercard is stacked. You have literal legends on the undercard. You have one of the biggest up-and-coming boxers in Isak Cruz. He's going to fight an undefeated fighter. Nothing better to challenge, an up-and-coming fighter than another undefeated fighter who's never taken a loss or maybe ever been knocked down before. And then the next fight below that, we have Nonito Donaire, who's a legend in his right. He's basically, for lack of a better term, he's Manny Pacquiao light. He's not Manny Pacquiao, but he's right there with Manny Pacquiao as far as skills, reputation, the type of fight. Nonito Donaire gave us two of the best fights in the last few years against one of the best fighters in the world, in a way, from Japan. So, not only are you going to get to see Bud Crawford and Errol Spence in one of the greatest fights in the last 40 years, but there's not a watered-down undercard like we've seen with other big events. So you're literally, if you're a boxing person, or if you're, going to sit and pay $85 for Showtime Boxing on Saturday, you're going to get from start to finish entertainment. There's not going to be a watered-down mismatch fight. It's going to be a great card all the way through.
That sounds great. And really quickly first, before I ask you something else, Bud Crawford, Errol Spence, what is it about these two guys' style of fighting that has everyone so intrigued about this fight? And who are these guys? How did these two guys get to where they are right now, where they are both on the verge of being a part of this mega fight in years?
So for Errol Spence, a lot of this has been, a comeback. He has surgeries, and he had a horrible car wreck, as we spoke before, that almost basically ended his life and ended his, abilities to box. So for Errol Spence, this is kind of a comeback story that's been a comeback story for a couple of years, but this is the stamp on it. This is his end goal. He wants to look back on his career and say, I fought the best and I beat the best. Because for him, he likes to brag a lot about his resume, who he's beat and how he's beaten them. Well, on the other side, the flip side, Terrence Crawford doesn't have that resume. There's no knock on Terrence Crawford. It's just he signed with a company that prevented him in fighting against fighters from another company because of just how the boxing world works. So Terrence Crawford didn't shy away from anybody or wasn't scared of anybody. It's just the team that was in management of him didn't want him to fight other guys because they didn't want to take less money or have to take an even share because they felt that Terrence Crawford is the bigger draw, which it's debatable, but as you see, every Vegas sportsbook has Terrence Crawford as the favorite. And it's not just because of skills, it's because that's who everybody's putting their money on, because that's who they believe is going to win eventually. And, so when you look at both of them, they have different elements of what they want to achieve coming into this fight. As a matter of fact, Errol Spence is talking about moving up in weight. Like, this might be his last fight ever at this weight, because he maybe wants to move up and maybe face Canelo or David Benavidez, who are big draws as far as money makers. So I don't know if this is going to go a rematch or a trilogy with Crawford, but the fact that he's talking to Errol Spence about moving up in weight, it might not ever happen again. So we need to enjoy this, on Saturday night at T-Mobile Arena, because, as I said, as we've all said, this is the best fight in 40 years. Who knows if it'll be another 40 years before we get it, because this might be the only Terrence Crawford-Errol Spence matchup we ever see. So that's what makes it important to me, because it's no guarantee that we're ever going to see these guys again in a ring against each other. So to me, it makes it that much more important.
And Josh, you mentioned how Terrence Crawford was with a management organization that did not want to see him always necessarily take on the biggest draw, the biggest matchup out there for him, because his representatives felt like he should get more of the purse each fight. So having said that, which fighter do you think coming in here is more tested?
Well, I would have to say Errol Spence. I mean, it just is what it is. There's no knock on Terrence Crawford when people talk about his resume. It's just the lack of names that he has. He won in convincing fashion. Everybody knows his skills. He's literally the best switch hitter in boxing, meaning he can go from orthodox to southpaw, no problem. During the middle of a round, during some type of counter, he can switch back and forth, no problem. And not many boxers can do that. Even the guys who think they can do that don't do it effectively. A guy can say he's a switch hitter, but if he's a weakness when he's southpaw, what good does that do to be a switch hitter? Whereas Terrence Crawford, he's equally as good at southpaw and orthodox. He can switch stance, he can switch his feet, and also he looks at that as an advantage. So if he sees a weakness from your left side, he's going to turn you to the right. If he sees a weakness on your right side, he's going to switch and then turn you to the left, which means he's going to exploit, your body. He's going to exploit your head and do damage. So, again, it's unfair to say that Terrence Crawford is less than as a boxer only because he hasn't had the opportunity that Errol Spence has. Now, had Errol Spence, let's say Terrence Crawford had the same opportunities as Errol Spence, you'd be talking about Terrence Crawford, I'm guessing, as one of the greatest boxers in the history of the sport. Because had he had all those opportunities that Errol Spence had, you would already say he's no doubt at the top. But because he didn't, Saturday night is his opportunity to prove who Terrence Crawford is. So again, it just goes back full circle to this is just such a humongous fight for both of them and both of their legacies. this isn't even a money maker for them. Of course, it's a money maker, but this is about legacy for them. It's both of them. It's all about legacy.
Yes. So, with each of these fighters, what would you say for each of them was their most signature fight or their most memorable, toughest fight? So which one of these guys, for each of them, what was their most memorable or signature moment in their careers up to this point?
So for Errol Spence, I'll start with him first. I covered the Errol Spence and Sean Porter fight at Staples Center, which was still one of the... I've covered a lot of big fights in my career, but that just stood out as a very old school type feeling of a fight, you know? And after the fight, everybody told me, or everybody would text me, or coworkers, anybody, that's a fight. They said, that's a fight. I would have paid more. If I would have known that's what I was going to get, I would have paid more because I enjoyed every second of it, you know? And for me, the reason why it's Errol Spence's trademark fight is Errol had a lot of trouble throughout the fight with Sean Porter. Sean Porter, if you know, he was nicknamed the gatekeeper, which is, you know, you have to go through this guy in your division to get where you want to go, or to get to a title, or to get to the, you know, the big guy. So Errol Spence had a lot of trouble with Sean Porter, even to the point where I've already said on this show and many times that I believe Sean Porter won. But there was a moment in the fight, in the 10th round, where Errol came to his corner. He sat down on his stool, and he just looked dejected. He looked like he was out of it. He looked like, I'm frustrated. I don't know what to do with this guy. You know, up and down, just didn't know what to do. And the weirdest things in boxing will motivate you. So the DJ at Staples Center played a song I had never heard of. I'm not from Texas, but some like Texas theme song from Dallas. And Errol Spence literally sat up in his stool and started kind of moving his body and kind of, dancing a little bit. And his whole energy changed. His whole vibe changed. And when he came out, literally like 30 seconds later, he knocked Sean Porter down to the canvas. And that changed the entire fight. He won that fight because of that knockdown. And to me, that's who Errol Spence is. Errol Spence, he can go through things, like even in his life. He's gone through a lot of obstacles and struggles in his life. And yet, here's Errol Spence about to be in the biggest sporting event so far this year. And yet, look at all the things he's been through. So that moment in that fight when he was losing, he was dejected, he was down on himself, he didn't know what to do, he just literally pulled himself up and came out and knocked Sean Porter down and won that fight. And to me, it may not be his greatest fight, it may not be his greatest accomplishment, but to me that showed me who Errol Spence was right in that moment. And, you know, Terrence Crawford is very, very similar against in Madison Square Garden. I was ringside for this when he fought the Mean Machine, and he struggled. He was losing that fight. On the scorecards, he was down. And then, in typical Terrence Crawford fashion, he hit the switch. He turned to southpaw, and he started doing damage. And then when he created a little weakness, what Terrence Crawford does best, and hopefully we get to see it Saturday night, is he's the best fighter when he smells blood in the water. If he sees any weakness in you, he will go from attacking at 100% to 150%. He will just, if he smells any blood in the water, he's like a shark. And so, yeah, Saturday, hopefully both of these guys can, fight their fight and use their strength. Because if we can see both of their strengths against each other, this is going to be an epic, all-time, instant classic fight.
Okay, and Josh, could you please let the listeners know again the weight class that these two guys are fighting and what's on the line here in terms of championship belts?
So this is for the middleweight, and it's also for the undisputed title at middle. So, like I said, there's going to be 4 belts going to the winner, which means there's no debate, there's no argument. The man who wins this fight will not only be the top of the division, The man who wins this fight on Saturday night, unless there's a draw, which is possible, but unless there's a clear winner on Saturday, that will be the number one boxer in the world. So not only will you be an undisputed champion with 4 belts, but you will be the number one boxer in the world. And to me, when you go into a Hall of Fame consideration or greatest of all time consideration, you have to look at, were you number one in the world at any time? Because if you weren't number one in the world, I can't really consider you an all-time great. If I can't point to, and this is any sport, right? We could talk baseball, basketball, boxing. If you were not the number one athlete in your sport at any time, I cannot consider you an all-time great. Would you agree with that?
Yes. Yes, definitely.
So Saturday is so important for these two guys because in boxing, I don't want to downgrade any other sport or downplay any other sport, but in boxing, it's all about being the top dog. You know, there is no team.
Yes.
It's you and you alone.
Yes.
So you want to be the top dog, and in boxing, there's a different type of hunger to be that top dog. You know, it's not a team sport. You know, there's nobody else in the ring with you. There's nobody that's going to pick up the slack. It's you and you alone. So I feel like boxing, they have a different hunger and a different necessity, to be honest, to be that top dog. You know, I think a lot about A-Rod when he was, you know, jealous of Derek Jeter and, you know, I supposedly took steroids because it wasn't good enough to be top 5. I had to be number 1, right? I always remember Alex Rodriguez saying, it wasn't good enough to be good. I had to be number 1. And it's like, I wonder, well, what would Alex Rodriguez have been like as a boxer? Could he have made it?
Yes. Very, very interesting. All right, Josh. Okay, so I'm going to get your pick for the fight. But before I do that, I want to read a comment that my father wrote on Facebook Live. Hello, Dad. All right, so because my dad is a big, long-time fight fan, so I'm going to just read what he said, and then I'm going to get your thoughts just on who you think is going to win the fight. All right, so my dad says, you can never tell about prize fights. Everybody thought Liston was going to kill young Cassius Clay, but he turned out to be easy work. The fight between Michael Spinks versus Tyson had high expectations. Both were undefeated, and Spinks had defeated the great Larry Holmes, who was also undefeated twice. So he defeated him twice, Larry Holmes twice, I guess. Mm-hmm. All right, so the only lightweight in history to win the heavyweight crown, but the fight was over in 90 seconds. That's when Tyson obliterated Michael Spinks. He says, as far as Crawford not getting the opportunities, well, he is going to get it now. And then my dad says, I think Crawford is too cocky, and I believe Spence is going to kick his behind, just like I predicted Mayweather would beat Pac-Man, and he would have beat him at any time. On paper, this looks like a great matchup. Leonard versus Hearns, Ali, Frazier, Pryor, Aguayo, etc. But you never know. That's my dad thinks, Dad. So, so if you want to comment on that, you can, but I definitely want to get your pick for the fight.
Yeah, I agree totally with your dad. Boxing is the sport that gives you the most surprises. Sometimes positive, sometimes negative. But boxing will shock you. You know, you never really, like you said, you never really know what you're going to get when that bell rings the first time. You really never know what you're going to get because, again, these guys have never fought each other. You know, the big trilogies and stuff like that, what makes them cool is, you know, so I'll just go on a little sidebar real quick. With the trilogies, I always watch the trilogies, and I know a lot of people say, okay, round 1 through 12, okay, and then the next fight, round 1 through 12. I don't really do that. I keep going. So I go round 1 through 12, 13 through 24, you know what I mean? And I consider it like Pacquiao-Marquez. I consider that like a 44-round fight, you know? And so it was like who won in the 44 rounds. So anyway, the point of this is like when guys face each other multiple times, they know everything about that person. They know how they breathe. They know how they do everything. Recover. They know how to read their body language from getting a shot to the head or a shot to the ribs or something. They know exactly your body language. And so this they don't know each other. So we really, like your dad said, we don't know what we're going to get. But the explosiveness of these two guys gives us the potential to be, again, an all-time great. And because these guys are offensive, they're not going to sit back and calculate and, let me give him respect. They're not going to do that. They're going to jump right out of the gate. I already know it. These guys are going to jump right out of the gate. And even for Terrence Crawford, who's a traditional kind of a slow starter, I don't think he's going to give this that kind of slow start. I think he's going to want to make his presence known immediately. And as far as, Terrence Crawford being a little cocky, I feel like maybe he had to be. He had to be because he doesn't have the reputation and the resume that Errol has. So maybe sometimes Terrence feels like he has to be the louder person in the room because he hasn't made his presence known, on paper or on record or, So again, I agree with your dad, and I'll just give my prediction quickly. I think Terrence Crawford is going to win in a decision. I think it's going to go the distance. I don't know if I foresee some knockdowns yet, but there's going to be some physical shots. There's going to be some punishment. By the end of the fight, both of them are going to be hurt, damaged. So we'll see, but I see Terrence Crawford in a decision.
All right, Josh, I know you were on your way out to Las Vegas to cover the festivities, and very exciting time for you to be able to get to be a part of that. And one of these days, one of these years, I'm going to get out to Las Vegas and join you for one of these fights. But Josh, thanks again, and I'm going to have to buzz you early next Sunday morning after the fight to get your thoughts and analysis on what just happened. So don't be out partying too hard, all right, after the fight on Saturday night, because you got an early West Coast call coming for you from me next Sunday morning.
Yeah, I'll send myself home from the MGM casino floor early. I'll try to limit myself.
Yes, and don't be out there chasing the women too late, all right, man? All right, you got an early wake-up call on Sunday morning, okay?
All right, you're going to get me in trouble with my lady, but that's good. That's okay.
All right, buddy.
All right, bro.
You know what? Thanks a lot. And one last thing, I just want to thank you again for WBC. You had a great interview with Ken Griffey Jr., and that's how I first discovered that he had the HBCU Classic, that I ended up making it because I found out through you, and it was a great event. So thanks again, man.
Yeah, I was going to say, bro, I loved all of your coverage from the All-Star game. I watched all your coverage from past All-Star games, and I could tell this one was different for you, and it showed.
All right. Thanks, brother, and I'll talk to you next week. Enjoy the fight in Vegas, all right?
Take care, New York City. Watch Saturday night. Showtime.
All right, folks. So that was Joshua Garcia. You can find him in the New York Beacon and other outlets, all right? He's not hard to find on social media. All right, this is Samori Benjamin. Thank you for joining me. I'll see you all next week. Goodbye.